Welcome back. The battle for the White House headed south this week to the U.S. border with Mexico. President Biden, Donald Trump visiting two sectors with wildly different migrant apprehension rates amid this ongoing crisis. Now, after surveying a crossing point that's becoming really the heart of the crisis with some top Texas officials, Trump then blasted Biden for allowing things, as he put it, to really get out of control. Listen.
It's the worst border ever in the history of the world. There's never been a border where 15, 16, maybe 18 million people have already crossed. And I think nobody has any idea what the number is. You know, the gotaways, they don't know what the gotaways are. We have millions and millions of people, and they come from jails and prisons. They come from mental institutions. I'll tell you, you come to Texas, this is now a war zone. And they view it as a war zone. And Mexico's doing nothing to help us.
Despite a spate of violent migrant crime this week, President Biden did not address the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley while he was at the border. Riley was laid to rest earlier today in Georgia. Police there charging an undocumented Venezuelan man with killing her while she was jogging last week in Athens. Republicans, meanwhile, are accusing Democrats of trying to divert attention away from the border with this argument.
This immigrant crime narrative is racist. It's not true. Donald Trump is out here saying that we're poisoning the blood of this country, and the facts actually don't bear that out.
Well, this invasion rhetoric is just absolutely disgusting. It's xenophobic. It's racist. Go to Ukraine. You see what an actual invasion looks like.
So right now, Jesse, really for the first time, the polls for the general election are starting to reflect that the border crisis, immigration is gearing up to be maybe the number one issue for some general election voters. Do you think Biden's trip yesterday hurt him or helped more?
I think it hurt because he's down 35 points on the issue, which is the number one issue in this country, according to Gallup immigration. And if you're the president and you're getting hammered by this big of an advantage, and then you go down to the border and you draw attention to the border, he brought every news camera in the country to the border, and everybody's just reminded about how he's blown it to smithereens. The way the president, former one, talks about this in military terms is smart because it's a Trojan horse. You're getting tens of thousands of Chinese nationals. We know they're deputized as spies by the CCP. This whole thing is being run by drug cartels, the funneling, the human smuggling, the trafficking. You're bringing in massive amounts of fentanyl, not to mention just the criminal element. You're bringing in people that are raping kids. They're killing women. They're assaulting cops and flipping us the bird. And to say that there's no relationship between migration and crime is pretty dumb because we don't know the relationship between migration and crime because sanctuary cities hide it. If you're an illegal alien and you get popped for anything in a sanctuary city, the sanctuary cities don't tell the FBI. So at the end of the year, when you look at all of the statistics, they don't show up in the statistics. Meanwhile, all these guys like the newcomer, as they're calling them, who murdered Laken Riley when she was out on a jog, is classified as white in the police report. So it's obfuscating the entire issue. The fact that they're calling them newcomers, that have gone from illegal aliens, that's offensive, asylum seekers, now we're at newcomers. Katie, we are losing the language war here. They're going to start calling them lovers pretty soon, and they're going to say Republicans hate lovers. You know, this is what they do.
As long as it's not brothers, I'm good.
So, Jessica, Republicans have been obviously hammering the president for not going to the border. So now he went to the border, right? They are critical of the sector he decided to visit. Mm-hmm. They say that he brought up the wrong things in his speech yesterday, climate change. He left out the wrong things, Laken Riley. Is there anything he could have done to avoid some of that criticism? Or the books were cooked?
I'm getting a message from the Republican Oracle. He should resign. But you obviously missed the show yesterday when, I forgive you though,
no, I watch the show every night. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, nice.
Where I said, there is nothing President Biden could do that would appease the Republicans. It's impossible. It has to do with election season. It also has to do with blind hatred for the man and that it destroys their narrative if he does anything that's even remotely a gesture towards their priorities, like a big bipartisan border deal, which Donald Trump told our own Laura Ingraham, of course I'm not going to support that. It helps the other guy. Jesse's right that there are a bunch of people for whom immigration is their number one issue. but they all identify as Republicans. The latest Quinnipiac poll, for instance, has the #1 issue for Democrats as preserving democracy, something that Joe Biden talks about a lot and obviously has a great case against Donald Trump
When
for.
they talk about Americans, in the latest Gallup poll, all Americans identify immigration.
Did you look
as
at the
top
breakdown
issue.
of who?
I'm talking about Americans, Jessica.
Oh, we're not red and blue?
No, there's some Democrats that
Yes,
also
of
care about
course.
immigration.
Yes, but ranking it as the #1 issue and saying this is going to define the election has failed for Republicans repeatedly. 2018, the caravan
2016,
started.
Trump won on immigration.
I'm talking about 2018 and 2020 when we had these caravans, right?
then
Do you
they
remember? And then, right, they stopped because also it was an illusion that we were having a mass invasion, and people didn't like that kind of language. That doesn't mean that it isn't affecting liberal cities now. This Operation Lone Star, which is what Governor Abbott has done in terms of shipping migrants, has obviously made an impact. But we are not relying on the FBI data about migrant crime to say that areas that have gotten the most migrants from Operation Lone Star have lower crime rates. We have city data. And that's what NBC News did a big investigation into that and found that to be the case. So yes, Lake and Riley, it's a terrible tragedy, but it doesn't mean that these are all bad hombres that are coming across. I mean, he says that they're
Then what are they
poisoning
here
the country.
for? What are they here for?
To work?
What are millions of single military-aged men from China, from countries where they don't have any kind of documentation, where they're terror hotspots from all around the world? What do you think they're here for?
You think that
They're not
all the
working.
Chinese
They're not
men that are
working. They're
coming in
getting
here-
debit cards from the mayor of New York.
No, first of all, that's
they're
a
taking
pilot
over hotels.
program.
In
That's-
Washington, D.C., they've taken over a homeless shelter, this gang of illegal immigrants who've come in. They've completely taken the street over.
Does that mean they're
wielding
poisoning the
knives, where
country?
I've seen them. They're dealing drugs. They're getting arrested. It's not just Lake and Riley. I can give you dozens of examples of people who've been victims of crimes. Over the past week, you had a 2-year-old who was killed by an illegal immigrant in Maryland. You had a young woman, 14 years old, raped by an illegal immigrant in Louisiana. The list goes on and on and on. You have people hiding all of this in the community because they're undocumented, and the women who are in these situations have no voice when it comes to what's happening. Back to the visit from yesterday with President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. Donald Trump was meeting with Texas DPS and the Texas National Guard, people who are actually doing something to stop this from happening, to stop these people that Joe Biden invited into the country from hurting young women and children in every city across the country. Joe Biden was meeting with political officials and Border Patrol agents who he has given orders to work against Texas. You just had the standoff in the park where they were allowing people to come in while Joe Biden stands up and demands more money from the American taxpayer, not to stop dangerous people from coming into their cities, but to process more of them. That's what he wants, and that's what he wants Republicans to give him.
There's also this problem, well, it's a problem as I see it, Tyrus. Jesse touched on it for a second, which is there is this narrative from the left that it is racist and incorrect to in any way connect or even talk about illegal immigration and crime.
Well,
the problem is that then by extension means that people aren't even allowed to, in reporting the Lake and Riley story, mention that the man who's accused of killing her was undocumented, because that becomes racist.
that's when you decide.
You then have to deny reality.
That's when you need to decide how popular you need to be on social media that week. I'll say it. The man was a minority. He was an invasive, illegal alien who killed an American citizen, and even one's too many. And we need to say that. Now, let's just say that. Let's just take their talking points. When somebody missteps and misdiagnoses somebody's gender or gets their name wrong, there will be somebody that will come out and be like, this affects everyone. This affects the whole community. Everyone's offended because Jesse said dang to Tyrus the day after Black History Month, and we'll just stretch it out from there. And I was triggered, right? So then they would have a whole campaign teaching everybody in this office to not say dang around Tyrus. So with that mindset, if Tyrus was killed by an illegal invader, wouldn't they come out and make sure that everyone understood what to look for? And everyone should be more alert on the border. And we all should be better because we need to protect him and his community from apparently giant phobic murderers. No, they don't. It only works on their side of the street. It only works on simple things that you can fix that don't matter. Anyone that comes into this country illegally, we're not against people immigrating. We're against people coming in the wrong way. And if you don't, and people who want to say it's racist because it hasn't hit them yet, wait until somebody hurts your family member. Wait till you get robbed and you ask what happened to the guy. Well, He's a this, that, whatever. The president came down there, and here's the other side of it. Just at this point, just be real with us. You're fine. You got in office, you took every one of the executive orders, you went like that. You open the door, say, this is what we wanted. So we're breaking a few eggs. We're going to figure it out. We like this open border. It's working. Our constituents likes it. We're not changing anything. You don't like it, Republicans? Tough. Vote. Just be like that. Don't go in there and be like, hey, let's talk about climate change. No.
First of all, he was talking about the Texas wildfires and thanking first responders, which he was in the local area, so that made sense.
He was in
Second
the
of all, you were
safest
making
place
the
in the
argument.
world
You were
to look at
making
the
the
border.
argument for the bipartisan border deal, though. That would
No.
yes, you are,
there's
because
I
you
don't
need
want
more
seven
no
things.
judges.
I want one bill. I'm a one bill guy.
All right.
What do you mean
You want
that
to
is
stop the
one
border?
bill?
Cool. I'm not paying for Ukraine.
What is
with
your-
American
Guys,
border.
I'm getting harassed. We got to
It's
go.
true,
We got to go. We got to get out of here.
All right, bye.
But stay with us, because coming up next, is it a giveaway or a solution to the homeless crisis? You get to decide. Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib has a new plan. It's to dole out cash to homeless people in her district. We're going to get into that.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.